Good evening traders, it's Samurai Trader here. Welcome to my market recap of the YM. I'm going to show you my early evening or the market open trades that I took last night on the YM 89 tick and also the NQ 133 tick. And I'm going to show you a mistake I made. So I had 5 winning trades out of 6, but the losing trade, as you're about to see, was a silly mistake that I made. And something that I preach. And there's an old saying, the teacher is the one that really has to learn, and he who teaches learns twice. So I'm going to show you this mistake and this error that I made and this losing trade, because it's something in my fast track program I say not to do. And so let's have a look at that in one moment. Now, first of all, if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. And all of these setups and a whole lot more you can purchase in my fast track program, which is well over 9 hours now of online video instruction and 5 hours of pre-recorded live trading sessions. And on top of that, traders, I have a new training program coming out, which is very much based on all of these setups that I call Target 400. Target 400, traders, is my new daily goal of $400 a day per contract traded. Now, as you're about to see, I still made, just in a 1 hour session, over $200 a contract. I'll show you that. And then I had a brilliant morning this morning. Anyone that's trading would have seen that. So, you know, what I want to do is document how I do that, because I believe, and well, actually, I don't believe, I know from training now hundreds of traders around the world and being in this business for close to 23 years, that you've got to have a compelling future, and money can be a big part of that. And if you can see you can earn $100, $200, $300, $400 a day per contract, it helps in creating that compelling future. Now, something else I want to quickly talk about before we move on is, what would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? Now, I want to throw something at you before I get to the charts. And it's this, traders. Trading is easy. My interpretation of easy, it's easy if it's something you can physically do. Now, you can all do what I do. Now, if it's so easy, then why aren't all traders incredibly successful? Well, it's for the following reason. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. Let me just say that again. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. Isn't it easy to look at perhaps at your 0 leg or your 8 EMA and check out what direction your short-term trend is in? Isn't that easy? It is, but we quite often bypass that. It's the easy things that we fail to do that can cost us big money when we trade. However, anyone can learn it. So the real thing is to learn the easy things. That's really important. And you can have an incredible career as a trader. Now, on the compelling future side, I'm launching a website in a few weeks' time, and I was doing some copy for it. And on the compelling side, I'm talking about creating a compelling future, because if your future is compelling, if you've got goals and dreams and you know you've got the vehicle, you can move mountains. And every great trader that I work with, or that I know personally, or that I've read about, all have compelling futures. Traders, you need to develop a compelling future. More about this on another session, but it's something that I'm going to really be focusing a lot more. Now, if you're tempted to skip what I'm talking about right now, unless you're incredibly successful traders, please listen to these little messages that I give, because it's so important. And if my voice is raspy, I was training some trainers this morning, some traders I should say, and I'm nearly losing my voice again. I tend to, it's been a long night. And by the way, where I am, my part of the world, it's 10:12 a.m. So it's been a big 12, 13 hours. Now, understanding the risk, of course, we talk about risk, and you're welcome to have a read of that. And just before we move on to the charts, I want to say this is, trading is not rocket science, traders. It's easy. You just got to learn the easy things. You don't have to be naturally gifted to have an epic career as a day trader, because genius is not about genetics. Genius is the realm of practice. Genius is the result of our combined habits, the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. It's the small things that make or break us. And I know you may feel sometimes I'm talking down to you, but this is true. If you're not achieving your day trading goals, this is the big thing that I come to realize a couple of years ago that was holding me back from making the really big dollars and making trading easy. It's our day-to-day habits that we have on a day-to-day basis. So without ado, let's go and have a look at some charts and some trades I took. So this first one is just one trade I took on the YM 89 tick. Now this is a T10. My experienced traders, you can see this is a T10, and I was in this for 13 ticks. Now my stop was actually larger than 13 ticks, and I should have gone for more, but the market was stalling at that time, was hovering around that period. I felt uncomfortable and I exited. Now of course if I had stayed in, it would have been a mighty fine trade, but 13 ticks, as most of you know, I'm a scalper, and that's $65 per contract. You can see for those traders that, and let me just remove this, that don't know how TradeStation works. So you can see I shorted up here 10 contracts. TradeStation plots my entries and exits. So here's my entry, there's my exit, 650. Nice start. Remembering that's $65 a trade. What's my target? Up to $400 per contract. So it's $65 in a few minutes. Let's now go and have a look at the NQ. Now, during the day traders, the aftermarket or the pre-market, I normally trade the 55 tick. However, we could really see the volume really pumping last night. So I jumped onto my 133 tick, and I'm going to pull this down a little because it's probably going to be a bit hard for you to see up there. That's probably better. And what I had here was a pivot downs. And let me just remove this for you. Oops, that was on a couple of spots there. Okay, now we can see here, and if I just go back a little for you, we can see here we had a number of pivot bounces here, and we went up, nearly touched it, bounced. So this is a trade that I jumped in on. I wasn't in on these trades down here, and I shorted here, and my target was around the 89 to 200 mark, which it bounced off of 200, and we actually had a 200 bounce here. So that was good for 14 ticks, and that was $700 or $70 per contract. And this is before brokerage. We'll talk about the net results in a moment. But then I had a T10. So traders, hopefully you can see the T10. Now, what do I teach about pivots? You always make sure that your stop is above the pivot where my stop was. Now we were hovering around at this stage, and the market was for 5 or 6 minutes, and you can see here I'm getting some chop off to the side here, and you know, time as a scalper, as a day trader, in my opinion, is not on our side. I want to see the trade move in my trade direction. I mentioned, by the way, this ticked up 1 tick. My stop here was 2 ticks above, as I teach you, 2 ticks. That ticked up 1, so that was a wipe the brow. So that was within 1 tick of my stop, but that's what stops are for. But also my stop was above the pivot. Here, my initial stop was well above the pivot. I was hovering, and when you see 4 or 5 candles starting to go sideways, I start to get worried. I mean, really, that's railway tracks. It's a sign of consolidation and indecision in the market. So what did I do? I started to see some movement, so I tightened my stop, and then bang, it went up, took me out by 1 tick, and bang, away it went, and my target was somewhere down here. The point is, the silly mistake I made is I brought my stop in below the pivot. Now traders, how often do we go up and test the pivots? Every day, continually. So that was a silly mistake that I made, and I talked to you about the fast track program about not doing that, but I think it was because I was going sideways and whatever. Anyways, as soon as I did it, I thought, what a silly thing to do. But well. So that cost me 10 ticks. All right, so it wasn't disastrous. It wasn't 14 ticks. And once again, that's trading. So then the market, by this time, by the way, the market opened here. The market went ballistic. So let's go and have a look at 3 other trades that I then took straight after. Okay, so what we can see here, as my students are very well aware, I don't never trade the first 15 to 20 minutes when the market first opens, because, and last night particularly, it was really hiking. The ES was going crazy, the YM, the NQ. Now, of course, traders, you may remember that in a really fast moving market, if you go for a higher time frame or a higher tick count, such as 133, you might go up to 233 or even the 550 or whatever, that will slow it down. However, of course, then your risk increases, because if you stops, you're going to have larger stops. So let's talk about the next 3 trades that I took. So first of all, I had a classic 200 bounce up here. The market's starting to close down, and I really like this trade because I had some great divergence here, as you can see here on my platinum. And it was a 200 bounce. So I jumped in, and I was actually, I went in at market and I had some slippage on that trade there, and I was targeting 14 ticks, and so it was a couple of ticks late, but it doesn't matter because I still had on my dome, I was only after 14 ticks, and great, that delivered. Now, whilst I was still in that trade, I then had a T10. So for my traders, you can see here, I entered off on a 200 bounce. I then entered down here, this is a T10, money on the floor, and you can see it come down, and I then had, and by the way, I had slippage again. I went in at market, the market's still really hiking at this stage, and it come down and bounced up, and I think, I can't remember exactly, I think it went down and hit about 10 ticks, and because I was just above the pivot, what quite often happens at pivots, we get pivot bounces, so I got out at +1. So it was 10 contracts by 1, which is $50. Now these figures here are before my commissions. Commissions are about just under $5, $4.80 or whatever they work out to be. So that's before then. Then up here I had a lovely T7, our double top, slight divergence here, but the big thing is I had a nice double top here. And I shorted here. That was good for 14 ticks. Now at this stage it's 12:09 a.m. my time, and I'm due to get up at 3 hours later for some trading with some private clients. So I called it quits at this stage. So if we take into account the loss that I had there of 500 and whatever, that works out to be, after commission, still a little over $200 per contract. Now that's all in 1 hour. And what I didn't take was a whole lot of other trades there. So, you know, it was still a great night. The lesson here was, got out at break even because of this pivot bounce. And the other one was just a silly mistake. And you can see here, there was still some great trading opportunities here. I was marking up as the market was going along, but it was just really moving too fast for my liking. Look at all these beautiful 34 bounces all over the place, but the market is going very, very busy. So traders, that's a quick recap. If you'd like to know more about my fast track program, please drop me an email at trader@imadaytrader.com, and I'll send you some information. Traders, keep the information or the questions coming in, students, as you have questions. Now, for the current students, by the way, I'm going to be doing tomorrow some Forex recaps on both time charts, so these minutes, 3-minute charts, and also some tick charts for you. So I'll get those sent out to you. So traders, still a great night, still 5 out of 6, and I had 5 out of 7 this morning. I had a great morning once I got up early this morning, and time to go and get some shut-eye, ready for another big night. Signing off, see you next time, talk to you next time.